and welcome to Guides.Global. My name is John Howell and I am the editor, and with me today I have Burak Orkun, who is a chartered accountant working here in Bodrum, Turkey, and the senior partner of Orkun Orkun. Burak, welcome.
Hello.
Now, this video is about the taxation of individuals, real people as opposed to companies, in Turkey. And so, I suppose to start off with this video, we need to talk about tax residence. So, for a person to be tax resident in Turkey, what is the test?
If you live more than 183 days in Turkey, you are a tax resident.
And that's in 183 days in one block or in lots of different pieces?
Yes, in one calendar year.
In one calendar year. And the effect of being tax resident is that you pay taxes here in Turkey on everything, on all of your income and gains in the world.
In the world, not only in the Turkey.
Yes. And of course, you will probably benefit from a double taxation treaty, so that maybe, well, you shouldn't have to pay the same tax in two countries, and that depends on the country you come from.
Yes, it's not going to be a double, it will be deducted, or you pay more.
Yes. But from the Turkish point of view, if you spend more than 183 days here, you are caught for tax in Turkey.
Yes.
Yes. Now, let's look at some of the taxes the individual is going to have to pay. And first of all, let's look at income tax.
Okay.
So for someone who is resident in Turkey, what rate of income tax are they going to pay?
15% to 35%.
And that depends on the amount of income you have?
Yes.
Now, in your written guide to this, I know we've got tables showing how much you pay at each level, but for low levels of income, you pay 15%, high levels, you pay 35%.
20, 27, 35.
Exactly. And there's no tax-free amount, is there, in Turkey? So if you have an income of 500 lira, you will pay tax at 15% on that.
Depending on your type of income.
Yes.
First there are allowances.
Yes.
Then you are subject to this income tax rates.
Yes. Okay, so that's general income.
Yes.
And that means income from your salary, from the work that you do,
rental income,
interest from the bank, all those sorts of things. You treat capital gains a little bit differently, don't you?
Yeah.
So if a person who is resident here bought a house, say 3 years ago, and they sell it at a profit, they will have to pay tax on that profit.
Yes. You have to pay tax up to 5 years.
Yes.
If you hold more than 5, it's tax-free.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a house or a car or anything, always after 5 years it's going to be tax-free.
No, just house and buildings, commercial buildings, or land.
Or land. So, but that's quite good, because if you've lived in it for 5 years or you've owned it for 5 years, that's tax-free, which is a very useful benefit.
Yes, actually government encourage people to invest for more than 5 years, not less.
Yes. And if you have owned the property for less than 5 years and you therefore have to pay some tax, there's also a tax-free allowance, isn't there?
Yes, which is 11,000 lira for 2017.
Yes. So the first 11,000 lira of profit that you make is free.
It's free.
And that applies whether it's profit from selling a house or from selling some shares or from selling whatever.
Yes, whatever.
Okay. What other categories of capital gains tax are there? You mentioned earlier, I think, stocks and shares. How are they treated for tax purposes?
Yeah, stock shares is tax-free after 2 years, not 5 like properties. So.
And then you pay you get the 11,000 tax-free,
11,000
and then you pay it the same.
35.
And all of the capital gains tax is paid at the general tax rate, so 15 or 35% depending on your circumstances. Are there any other types of capital gain which have special treatment, in other words, which get tax-free allowances?
No, the most important ones are just houses and the stock shares.
So, moving on, for a person who is tax resident here in Turkey, another tax they may be worried about is wealth tax. Do you have any wealth tax in Turkey?
We don't have any wealth tax.
So they can stop worrying about that. Another tax is inheritance tax. If someone is resident in Turkey and they receive an inheritance, they will have to pay tax on that.
Yes.
Does it matter whether the inheritance is an inheritance in Turkey or an inheritance in, say, Germany or Australia?
Yeah. If you are a tax resident, it doesn't matter. But if you are not a tax resident, your asset should be in Turkey.
Yes. So, as a tax resident, it doesn't matter where I get the inheritance from, I'm going to have it taxed in Turkey. And again, probably your double taxation treaty will mean that you won't have to pay tax in two places on that.
Yes. Always.
Yes. The other tax I wanted to talk about briefly was gift tax. Now, that isn't a tax that exists in every country, but here in Turkey there is a gift tax, so that if you receive a gift from somebody, then that is also taxable.
Yeah, taxable.
And that is taxed at the general tax rate again, the 15 to 35%.
No, for inheritance and gift tax we have special tariffs.
Ah, okay.
So you can find in the book.
So, and as an example, on an inheritance, if you had an inheritance of, say, 1 million Turkish lira, what sort of rate of tax would you be paying on that?
It's also variable,
yes.
Like income tax rate.
Yes. Okay, so it depends on the amount of the inheritance. And we've listed all of this in the guide.
Yes.
Good. And is gift tax the same rate of tax as inheritance tax, or is it a different rate again?
Same table, but bigger rates.
Okay. Now, if receiving a gift, does it matter who the gift came from? So if it's your parents give it you, or it's someone else gives it you, it's all the same rate.
It doesn't matter.
What about other taxes in Turkey for residents? They will, I imagine, possibly have a car here in Turkey. Do they have to pay a car tax every year?
Yes, every year they have to pay motor vehicle tax.
Yes. And how much is that roughly?
500 Turkish lira.
500 Turkish lira for an average car.
For average car, middle class,
What other taxes will someone find if they live in Turkey?
For example, if they have a property here, house, the place where they live in, they have to pay council tax.
Yes, and that is assessed on the basis of the value of the property, or how?
Value of the property is been announced by a municipality for each year.
Yes, and so the municipality fixes the tax value of the property, and then you pay tax on that tax value. And I think the rate of tax for that is the same throughout Turkey.
Not really. If it is a metropolitan area, it's double.
Okay. So if it's a non-metropolitan area, what's the rate of tax?
1%.
And if it's a metropolitan area,
2%.
It's 2%.
If it is a land, 3%.
So, again, just to give a concrete example, so if you owned a house here in Bodrum and it was 600,000 Turkish lira, is Bodrum a metropolitan area?
Yes, anymore.
So you would be paying 2%, but not of the real value of the house, but of the official tax value of the house.
Yes, tax value.
And is the tax value normally higher or lower than the real value?
Usually lower, very low.
Very low.
Yeah.
So, for example, for a house that was worth 600,000 Turkish lira in the real world, what sort of tax value would you expect to see for that?
Probably half, maybe less.
Okay, so let's say 300,000 Turkish lira, and you would pay tax of 1% of that. Sorry, 2% of that.
2%.
It's a metropolitan area. Any other taxes? Any other surprises?
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
So that's for the tax resident.
Yeah.
Now, what about for people who are not resident? People who perhaps just come here on vacation or spend a bit of time here in Turkey.
Yeah.
How are they taxed? They'll have to pay tax on income.
Yeah, if they generate an income here.
But only on the income they generate here in Turkey.
Yes, here in Turkey.
Which for many of them will be little or nothing.
Yes. Also their houses and cars, whatever they have.
Yes, if you have property here, it'll be taxed in the same way, the same rate of tax.
Same rate,
And if you have a car here, you have to pay the same rate of tax.
Yeah. We don't have any special tax rate for non-nationals.
And if you make a capital gain on an asset located here in Turkey, you'll pay tax on that.
You pay tax
but
here.
only if the asset is in Turkey.
Yes.
And similarly, if you inherit and the asset is based in Turkey, you'll pay inheritance tax.
Yes.
But not if the asset is somewhere else.
So if you are not tax resident, you don't pay.
Yes. So really it's pretty simple, isn't it? If you spend 183 days or more in Turkey, you're paying tax or income tax, capital gains tax, wealth tax, gift tax and so on, on your worldwide assets.
Yeah.
And if you're here for fewer than 183 days, then you'll pay tax only on the things you actually gain in Turkey.
Yes. Or your asset property in Turkey.
The only other thing I wanted to mention when it came to these taxes is the special circumstances that can arise with married couples. Are married couples here treated in exactly the same way as two single people, or are there special tax allowances for married couples?
No, it's same for everyone. Yeah.
Same as individuals?
Same as individuals.
Burak, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
I hope you found that useful. If you did, please like or follow us, and whether you do that or not, we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.